All right, so let's do this. Okay, so I haven't, it's like I haven't prepped, and I'm kind of this person that likes to wing stuff, and I know it sounds really terrible, but that's just kind of how I
Kind
roll.
of.
Yeah, that's my style, right? It's like instead of preparing, I was like having fun, right? I was like kind of taking selfies and doing fun stuff, listening to music. But I've been through the ringer like you have. It's like I've been in the corporate world, I've been in all this jazz. It's like don't sweat the small stuff because it's all small stuff, right? I mean, that's really the bottom line. So I love your story. I love, it's so interesting to watch someone like you who came from nothingness to something. And I listened to the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People recently on an audio. And one of the things that stood out really clearly for me was the fact that we have independence, which I was living and you were living, I'm sure, for a very long time. And then there's interdependence, and then there's codependence. So a lot of the great people that have accomplished a lot of things in life are the ones that are interdependent. And I've actually just learned this myself the past couple of years because I was always the independent one. But I think, like you, I'm sure you've relied on other people to kind of fill in the blanks that you're not good at. And I think that's the key in life. It's that, we're not good at everything. So we have to reach out to other people, and that's how we grow and change as a soul, is that we have this human interaction. So I want to introduce you first. So it's Jason Garner, right?
Yeah,
And you went from being a Fortune 500 exec, and it was what, the top 20 highest paid under 40? That is like,
that's right.
do you have that frame somewhere? Do you have that like on the wall somewhere? Because that's cool.
No,
It's
no,
pretty cool. Do you?
no, no. I'm
No.
not. I'm not sure at this point in my life that that's what I want to be
Well, no, but
known.
it's an accomplishment, right? I mean, when you're on your deathbed, are you going to say, "Yeah, damn, I nailed that. That was cool." Most people think it's pretty cool. I mean, that is a really, really great feat of accomplishment. I mean, there's not many people who can put that down on their resume. I mean, I don't know anybody, and so that's really cool. But the other side of things is that you really found what life is about and what it's supposed to be. And that's the beauty of it. It's like sometimes we have to hit rock bottom before we really see the light at the top of the well. We hit the bottom of the well and then we can look up and see. And, Wayne Dyer, which is one of the spiritual teachers back in the day, I mean, he's not really popular now, but, one of his things he said was, the lowest points are your jumping off points. And I truly, truly believe that. I think that the lower we go, the higher we climb. And so I love your story. I just want, like I said, I didn't prepare, so I just want to wing it with you and just have a casual conversation, talk about your book, talk about your journey, and anything you want to share, because I think most people learn through listening to other people and being able to hear their story and relate to it and say, you know what, I see myself in that. And I can see where he's coming from. And I think that that's where most people are able to really take something away from it.
Yeah, I
Give you
think
the
you
floor.
were talking about kind of on my deathbed. What will I look back and appreciate? And the genesis of my story doesn't begin at my deathbed, but at the deathbed of my mother. And here I was, as you said, an accomplished executive in a big company, and I'm holding my mom's head as she's taking her last breaths, as she died at a very young age from stomach cancer. And so, I think my perspective is really born from that moment of, as you said, interconnectedness with my mom, and sitting there and really having some questions about what did my life mean, and does it matter that I made a lot of money or that I was on some list? And the truth was, as I was sitting there, the answers that were occurring to me were no. And what really mattered was knowing myself, was knowing my mom, was being connected from a place of heart center. And that really sent me on a journey that in many ways fulfilled me much deeper than any of the business accomplishments. I'm proud and I'm blessed to have had those accomplishments. But as I climbed that mountain of business success, I found myself feeling more and more empty and more scared and more insecure, as I think so many of us, when we're honest, have those feelings that are going on inside. And so my book and my journey is about what I discovered along the way about myself. And I feel like, now I flash forward to, as you said, my deathbed. I think the things that I will feel most proud of are the moments of connection, including this one, right, where we're able to connect, versus moments of beating my chest and saying, "Look at me, here I am, I'm on this list or that list." One heartfelt connection is so much more important than any of the lists.
You got it. You got it. It's so interesting. I think that the reason why we're all here is because we're meant to interact with other people. That is the essence of the whole thing. If we were to spend our life in a cave, what would we do? We wouldn't grow or change. If you think about someone who's in prison for a life sentence, they come out and they're somewhat the same. And so I think that the harder the journey, the more we learn, and the more we incorporate, and the more lessons that we're able to bring from those experiences. So I think it really has a lot to do with the people that we interact with. And I always say I like to surround myself with positive people, places, and things, because life's too short to be in the negative, to be negative Nelly. So let's have fun. Life is for living. And I've been in the corporate world and I hated it. And, I probably would have been a big success because I was really good at it. And, I had a lot of skill in that area, but I just wasn't happy. And like you, it's like it didn't matter if I made $1 zillion, I just wasn't happy. So I would rather live as a bum on the beach doing what I love rather than the money. And I think that so many
and I think the real opportunity that we have is that, the large percentage of the people in the world find themselves in these work environments, right? And so my message is never that we have to leave our jobs, and my message is never that everyone has to follow the path that I found. In fact, I was blessed to be able to study with these great teachers, and really what I find myself sharing more and more is ways that we can balance both that business warrior and then the spiritual monk, right? It's that in that balance is where I think we find our opportunity to fully engage in life while also fully embracing our spirituality and the sides of us that actually fulfill us. And so when I look back on my time in corporate America, I look back at it like I look at all of the times I spent with any teacher. It was a brilliant teaching moment in my life, a brilliant learning moment for me, with the corporate requirements being the teacher. And so to now take that and marry it to some of my experiences with Guru Singh or with Montauk Chia or with Ron Teagarden or any of these great teachers, Sharon Salzberg, that I've had the opportunity to study with, it's how now do we put that together so that we can actually share things with people that are meaningful in their life. Because as you said, most people aren't going away to live in a cave. Lots of people are single moms and single dads. Lots of people are executives or workers in a company. And what we're all looking for deep down is a sense of fulfillment and a sense of love. And what I learned on my journey was that sense of love started by getting to know myself and started by loving myself. And one of the things that I wasn't successful at while I was in corporate America was being able to be in that environment while taking care of myself.
Yes.
And I think the real lesson where I'm able to go back in time, the thing that I would want to teach myself is how to care for myself, care for my own health as much as I was caring for the health of the business. Because we're going to find ourselves in these busy environments, and then it's just how do I show up in that busy environment, caring for myself, connecting with others, while doing the things that we have to do to be responsible in a modern society.
Sorry about that. I guess I should have. I'll edit this out for sure. I just hold on. Sorry about that. All right, yeah, because we had a little issue with the technicalities of this show before it came on. So we were on the phone with a few people. So Jason, you know what I don't know what it is, and like I said, I didn't do any research. So I love your story so far because I can relate. And bottom line is I can totally relate to what you're saying completely and utterly. But the fact that your book, and I really, goodness sake, I really didn't do a lot of research, like I said, for the interview, but I really love the title because for me it's like, and I breathe. It's for me, I can remember going through a lot of my life not breathing. There are so many people who hold their breath. And I actually have a psychologist friend who said that a lot of people will go about their day and really be holding their breath a lot of the time. They're not taking deep breaths. They're kind of, doing what they're doing and they're holding their breath, or they're not, taking those conscious deep breaths all the time. And it's so true because I was the breath holder. I was the one that didn't take that breath, right? So it just struck me, and I almost felt like, you know what, I don't want to research it. I don't want to look into it, because if I look into it, I think that the beauty of what you're going to tell me is going to be gone. So I think I need to hear it from you. So what is the book? And I love that you've been with all these teachers and things like that. That really is amazing to me, especially coming from your background to what you are doing now. So are you doing this full time now? Is this something like, speaking, doing the books and the whole 9 yards? Is this what you're doing full time?
Well, the title of the book really came from that sense that you're talking about, right? Of kind of running through life holding my breath. And there was this moment after my mom passed, where I learned to breathe, where I finally let go, and I, not only did I breathe, but I cried, and I let out years of anxiety and years of self-doubt and years of fear, because behind our inability to breathe is always fear, because breathing is a sense of surrender, right? It's an action that when we breathe, we're actually saying to our entire body, I'm safe. Because
Yes.
when we're not safe, everything speeds up. We have to make quick decisions. We have to run. We have to fight. And when we look at the lives that we've built for ourselves, many times we spend our entire day in that fight or flight syndrome, right? Our heart rate elevated, holding our breath, not sure who's going to attack us from what side. And that describes many of our lives, whether it's rushing our kids off to school or fighting through LA traffic or getting on the subway in New York or dealing with our crazy boss. All of these things cause our system to be in this constant state of agitation. And so what I wanted to convey with the title was, that in many ways I had found this ability to breathe after so many years, and the book is a series of stories about that learning to breathe, right? And not preaching. I didn't want to write a self-help book because I just think there's too many of those, and the term self-help conveys to all of us that we're broken, and I don't believe that we are. What I really wrote was a self-love book. It's a book about how I learned to love myself after years of believing that love came from the outside. I have begun to discover and learn every day how to find love on the inside and not search so much for external validation.
You nailed it. I'm telling you, you nailed it. It's just, I'm only 37, but I feel like I've lived 100 million lifetimes in one. And I'll tell you a little quick story about the whole breathing thing. Because, like I said, I was a breath holder, and, those kinds of people that you are talking about, the ones that just didn't breathe, that didn't love themselves, they were people pleasers, the whole 9 yards. Recently, I had a near-death experience when I was 4, but recently I had one that involved the breath. And the ambulance was here, the firemen were here, and I thought I was going to die. I thought I was having a heart attack and a stroke at the same time. And it was actually a drug-induced, because I was on anxiety medications, because I don't breathe, because I'm stressed, because of this and that, personal life, the whole 9 yards, corporate America, the whole, all that stuff. And it was a panic attack, but I wasn't panicked. I was really chill, watching TV, and I had this heaviness in my chest, and I kept saying, I'm just really uncomfortable. So I went to lay down, and it got worse and worse and worse. It was like an elephant sitting on my chest. And then all of a sudden, wham, I had this huge, I couldn't breathe. I was like gasping for breath, and then my whole body started to become numb. And then my hand was like all gnarled up like this, and I thought, oh my God, I'm having a stroke. What is going on here? So by the time they came, I was literally paralyzed in the bed. My mouth was drooped like I had a stroke. I was slurring my speech. And they said that people have died from these panic attacks, and usually they can talk them down and get them to breathe. And that's what they did for me. They put all the electrodes in the whole 9 yards, but it was the breath. And I was short on not oxygen, but what we breathe out. That is what was causing my issue. So it's really hitting home for me that I'm doing this interview with you, which is about a book about breathing, because I think that in life, the breath is like the essence of life. That kind of separates us from what does a baby do when a baby is born? They clear the baby's mouth. I have 2 children, so I know. They clear the baby's mouth and they pat the baby until the baby breathes, right? And so to me, the breath, that was an eye-opener for me. That was like my second wake-up call in my life. And my life has changed since then, and it's only been a couple months. But that is the essence of life to me. So it's a beautiful thing, and I think you're going to, I don't know when your book is coming out or if it's already out or how long it's been out, but there has to be more work done on this, because I think that you hit it right on the button. I think that it's such an important thing right now, not just in corporate, but in all aspects of life, because people forgot that is like the essence of life, to breathe.
Yeah, I think that's right, and I think it's not so much that we've forgotten; it's that we've been conditioned and programmed against any sort of self-care. Right? We wake up in the morning and the day starts with an email from somebody or a to-do list from somebody, and so I think sometimes that term we've forgotten throws. I mean, we certainly have personal responsibility in these areas, but the programming runs so deep that it's not as easy as, hey, remember, right? And we don't live in a world where tomorrow I say, oh, I remembered, and then everything is easy, right? We live in a world with distractions, and we live in a world with pressures, and so many people are under that kind of extreme stress. And so I think all of these journeys begin with a deep breath. I think all of our return to a sense of peace begins with a deep breath. And those breaths are hard, because when we accustom ourselves to breathing shallow and we finally take a deep breath, a lot of stored up things come up. There's a lot of emotion, there's a lot of storms that are brewing inside. But it's really the beginning to self-love, and one breath leads to 2, leads to 100, leads to 1,000,000. And I think that for me has been one of the real keys, is that sense that my feelings matter too, and I deserve to have time and space to breathe. And when we breathe, we start to infuse space into our busy days. We start to infuse a sense of just a pause and a still in the midst of all of the chaos. And I think you're right. I mean, we're all living panic attacks, right? I mean, whether it manifests itself as exactly a panic attack, I think there's very few people who are operating in today's world who can't really empathize with the sense of panic. And that sense of panic really is, I have so many things that are expected of me, I have no time to care for myself. And I've just found in my life it's really important to pause and to make that time to stretch into the day with yoga, to sit in meditation, to drink a green juice, and to put nutrients into my body. All of these things are ways that we begin to tell ourselves that they're loved, that they're not just objects, that we are not just an object meant to get something done, but that we matter, and that we're loved.
Yes, and I think, like you said, the act of taking that deep breath is almost like, for some people, a rejection of that self-love. Because when I'm thinking about taking this deep breath, it's almost like I have to be very conscious of it, and therefore I have to be giving this to myself. And so I think that you're right about saying this is the first step to self-love, because it really is. And I think so many people that I know, just not me, but many people, that just shallow breathe. And it is an act of self-love to actually consciously take that deep breath and say, I deserve to take in life. I deserve to take in that deep breath. And, when I was younger, I thought my body was my temple, and I took really good care of it. As I progressed into the stress and all the things you're talking about that really take away from self-love, I think that I let that slip a little bit, and I haven't been as health conscious, and I haven't been as, focused on the breath or any of those things, and I should be again. And I think that whole panic attack thing, because I'm such a practical person, it's like, I always say it's like practical spirituality, and what you're talking about is really that. It's like we have to live in real life, we have to pay bills, we have to go to work, we have kids to take to school. We can't sit on a mountaintop and meditate all day, but we still want to be spiritual beings that are growing and developing. So how do we marry the two, like you say? And somewhere along the way, I lost a piece of that. And I did go through a year of
and that's really,
loss,
and I think another piece of self-love is the compassion with yourself that says, okay, and welcome back. It's like
yeah,
we all lose our way. None of us. We don't have a Siri or a GPS built into us that says
right?
every time we start to get a little busy with a new radio program, right, or a new life or a new relationship or whatever we've got going on, we don't have that GPS that says come back. And so one of the big pieces of self-love is that ability to be compassionate with ourselves and say, okay, I had a wake-up call, right, and I'm now gonna listen a little bit better. Body, universe, spirit, emotion, heart, right? I'm gonna pay attention a little bit, and I'm gonna have supreme compassion with myself when I forget to pay attention.
Yes.
And so we're not creating a series of rules for ourselves, but we're just creating a net of love around ourselves that says, because if it's not practical, if it's just more rules and more stress, what good is it, right? What good does spirituality do for us if it doesn't result in you being able to care for yourself and you being able to feel loved, and there being permission for you to try new things, make quote-unquote mistakes, and then have a place of centeredness and home that you can come back to. Sorry, my computer's slipping down the makeshift tripod with pillows here. And I think that's the big thing. We tend to beat ourselves up. We learn, oh, here's a spiritual right or wrong, and then we beat ourselves up over it. And I think that's not the point. The point is always we will stray from the course, and when we catch ourselves, we say, welcome back, I love you, and we bring ourselves back to what we perceive to be center, and we start again. And that's another real important piece of the breath, is that the breath is a fresh beginning. Each breath is a new beginning. And when we give ourselves that permission, it says, hey, no matter how frazzled I am, no matter if I totally slipped up and I just flipped the guy off in the car next to me and I screamed at him, or I lost my temper at my work, or I said something I shouldn't have said to my spouse or to my children, I always have the ability to take a breath and begin again. I always give myself that permission, and I think that's a real beautiful part of self-love, and it makes it practical, as you said, because without the practicality, it's a waste of time, because we live in the world that we live in, and so we need tools that are really practical for us to be able to live in this world,
Exactly, and I love this. This is like such a basic concept, but so profound. So going through the book, and like I say, I didn't do any research. I was like in the.
Now you're going to have to read it though after this. This call.
I totally will. No, I totally. Based on my experience, how could I not read it after my experience that I just had, right? And it's funny. My experience when I was 4 was actually choking on one of those gobstoppers. So again, it was breath, right? I couldn't take a breath. So I ended up dying for a few minutes from this gobstopper. So again, it's like coming full circle again, the same experience. So how could I not read the book if it's about breath? But it's so basic yet so profound that it can change lives. Like you say, it's like the redo button. It's like, okay, I royally screwed up, but I'm going to take a deep breath and let's do this again. Take 2, right? And so it's so true. And I was supposed to prepare.
Or take 1,000 too is okay.
Exactly. I was supposed to prepare for your interview, and I was in the bathroom doing like messed up selfies. I sent them to my agent, and I'm like an agent's worst nightmare, aren't I? Because I've been through everything, and it's like, let's just have some fun. Life's supposed to be joyful, And I just intuitively felt that you and I would have a conversation, and I would find out what I need to know from you. So what I want to know now, and I haven't looked at the table of contents, I haven't looked at anything. So what is your book about other than the main concept of taking a breath and breathing. So take me through some of the steps that you would teach someone if you were going to say, okay, how do I do this? How do I incorporate it into my life? What do I do?
The book is really a lot less about teaching and more about sharing. I know when I was in the midst of a hectic life, the last thing I wanted was somebody coming in telling me, here's what you got to do, right? It's like we all have these consultants and self-help people around us telling us all the things that we've got to do, which usually ends up with us layering more and more and more on an already hectic life. And so what I wanted to do with my book was just share my journey. And the book starts with me growing up with my single mom in a trailer in Arizona. And it starts with us in extreme poverty, which we lived in. My mom, often worked 3 jobs to raise my sister and I. And then just kind of my entrepreneurial adventures that led me to become CEO of Global Music at Live Nation. So selling gum on the schoolyard, working at a flea market, all of these little adventures that I had and lessons that I was learning along the way about rewriting my story, about giving myself permission to experience abundance in the form of money, but also kind of the fears and pressures that were slowly building up as more and more I was reinforcing that story of I'm only loved when I do good, I'm only loved if I'm successful, and how the higher and higher I rose in business, there's no end to this, right? And so we look at the guy on the list, whatever successful list we want, and we think, well, that guy or that woman, they've made it, they have it. Yeah. But really, we're all experiencing the same inner doubts and the same inner insecurities. We all have that child inside us that's looking to be loved, and we express it each in our own way. And so for me, and in the book I talk about this in great detail, for me that came to a head, as I said, when my mom died, and I was really forced to take a look at my life and say, besides making money, what am I building with this? Yeah. And in front of me I had an example in my mom of life is fragile and life is precious and life can end in a nanosecond, and I really said I want to do something different. And so I left my job and I set out on a course of study with experts in health and emotions and spirituality and how the brain works, and I started to kind of put that all together with what I'd learned in business, and I started to kind of create this philosophy around real life spirituality and breathing and finding joy in life in a way that doesn't require us to check out and run to the mountains. I did that. I actually went to the mountains and studied in China with the Shaolin monks, but I don't think that that's what we have to do. No. I think we just have this invitation every day with every breath to just change our focus a little bit and to add in our own well-being and our own health with the health of the business and the health of the people around us. And we start to, and through that, we start to experience love, and we start to experience the sensation of caring for ourselves. And there's nothing radical in it. I mean, my daily practice consists of yoga and meditation and drinking a lot of green juice and caring for myself. And there's nothing radical in that, right? I mean, like a lot of people do it, but what is radical, or what are radical, are the results. Because when we reestablish that relationship with ourselves, it's kind of like if I work for you and I stop calling you and then you start emailing me and I don't reply to emails and I stop doing my job, our relationship would get really, really stressed. Yes. And that's the relationship that most of us have with our mind, body, and spirit.
Yes.
But if in the midst of that high tension, I pick up the phone and I call you and I say, hey, I'm really sorry. I've been going through a hard time. Could we get together? Because I'd really like to apologize to you. In that instant, our relationship gets immediately better. The pressure dissipates, and we'd have what we would call like a spontaneous healing of our relationship. And the same thing is true when we mend our relationship with ourselves, when we get back in touch with our feelings, we have a spontaneous healing of ourselves. And it's why these little acts of self-love carry such tremendous weight, because after 30, 40, 50 years of not caring for ourselves, when we breathe, when we meditate, when we take a slow moment and quiet down and we get in touch with our hearts, our body and our mind and our spirit say, ah, I'm listened to, ah, I'm cared for. And it really provides some profound changes in our life and allows us to start to experience that peace and fulfillment that I think all of us are seeking. And so my book is the story of my journey to there, that I hope is a friend, so that people don't have to do it by themselves the way I felt I was doing it when I was going through it.
I love it. I just love it. I think it's, like I say, it's so basic but so profound. Are you speaking? Are you doing like events, that kind of thing? Are you
No,
traveling the countryside?
no,
Anything? I mean,
it was a pretty
if you're
big chore
not,
to write a
if
book.
and you're in LA, then I'm hooking up with Anna after this interview, and we're gonna hook you up, sister. Because I think, this is so profound, and this is one of the things that I wanted to do, was to get more people together that have been on one side of the spectrum to the other. And I think there's a lot to be said for that, and not to say that everybody has to do it like you say, but when someone has, they have a lot to take away and a lot to share with someone else, because then they get back to simplicity. It's almost like the pendulum swings drastically one way and drastically the other, and then all of a sudden the pendulum comes in the middle, and there you are. So it's like that's where you are, and I think your energy really speaks volumes to me. When I sense your energy, it's just very calm, very serene. And even when you were talking, I kind of did this breath that was almost like a sigh, like a release, that kind of energy. So it's like, okay, there's something with this guy. I've got to like Google him after the interview for sure. But I got to read the book, and for sure. And I think that is it self-pub? Who published it?
I published it.
You
I,
published it?
I published it. I got tired of people telling me what it
No.
should be.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and
No,
and and I was blessed to have the financial means that I said I want to put out the book the way I want to put it out, because I wanted it to be an authentic representation from my heart, and I felt if I was going to truly talk to people who were experiencing what I had experienced in life, that it was important for it to be my voice and to be
yes.
in the way that I felt comfortable sharing the story. So we self-published it, and we're actually having a lot of fun. It's
Well,
my
I just
daughter
think it.
my daughter puts it in boxes and stamps it with an "I love you,"
I
and
love it.
my son takes them down to the post office, and it's a lot of fun.
I love it. I love it. But I definitely think you should be teaching. I don't know if that's something that is up your alley or if it's something that you would want to do, but I would certainly love to help you with that or facilitate that in some way, or even on the network have you do like a webinar that is, it's paid. You can make some money off of it, that kind of thing. But this is something that has to be taught. This is my life. I didn't breathe, and look at all the experiences that I had. And you talk about your mom, and I totally get that, because my grandmother died of the, what is it, COPD, where she literally smothered to death. And then my ex-husband's father died of cancer, and I watched him literally go from a vivacious man to a skeleton that couldn't breathe in the bed and had no veins left. And I was growing a baby in my belly at the time, so it's like I was watching one life die and the other one grow, and it was all about the breath. Again, it's like the story of my life is you. And I think that your book, it's no coincidence that I'm interviewing you now, and it's no coincidence that I just had this experience, just recently with last breath incident, because I think that this is a really so simplistic but so incredibly important. It's almost like you say, you're bringing your spirit, everything into alignment again. It's like we're almost like beside ourselves, literally, day to day. It's like we're at a body, and I think that's where my disconnect really finally happened, was that I stopped treating my body as a temple when the disconnect finally happened when I was over here. So the breath brings us all back into alignment, and you're so right about that. And it's so it's something that you could totally teach as a class or something like an add-on to yoga. This could be something you could trademark. I'm like, my business mind is going like a mile a minute, right? My corporate America. I'm actually Canadian, but corporate Canadian, I guess. But definitely, this is like this is liquid gold right now, and I think that it's such a crisis mode, especially in the U.S., that it's just like so simple, it's silly, but yet it's like I never thought of that. You know? So I think you have such potential with this book and this technique, and I don't even want to call it a technique. I mean, it's just breathing, but it's just I don't know. I'm excited about it. I'm really excited. I'm excited, and it's not even my book. I would love to see it in like the Barnes and Nobles and the Amazon. I'm sure you have it on Amazon, but I was lucky enough to get a publisher, but I don't know. I mean, we'll have to talk. I'll talk to Anna. This is like cool, cool, cool. I love it. I love it. It's just I'm so excited about it, and the fact that you're in LA too, and I'm in West Hollywood. I don't know where you are, but we should totally keep in touch for sure. And I love this. It just so rings true to me. The whole 9 yards, like the fact that you've been from one end to the other, and the breath is just incredible to me.
That's great. Well, I really appreciate you helping me share the word, and I hope that you read the book and check out my website. And we'll be in more touch in the future.
Well, how can we reach you, Jason? How can people get in touch with you? How can they buy your book? The whole 9 yards. I know you're on Twitter at the Jason Garner.
Yeah, and my website's jasongarner.com, and I write a weekly blog there, where it kind of picks up where the book ended, and I just share what I continue to learn. The next blog will be out tomorrow afternoon, and from my website you can buy the book. You can connect with me on social media, and we're just there sharing and hope that everybody checks it out.
I'm going to share your blog. I'm going to share it on my social media. I'm going to share it on Authentic You Media, and actually even thinking about buying a book to give away because I think it's so incredible. It's something that needs to be out there. So I think I'm going to get an extra book for that giveaway, but also just get the word out.
Anna will send you one if you just tell her. She'll send you one.
I know Anna will, but we got to spread the wealth, right? But definitely, I think we should keep in touch, and I'll talk to Anna about something. Great. My mind's kind of just spinning, but I love you, Jason. Love it. I mean, it's no coincidence we connected. No coincidence. So, doing great things, and it's just your energy is really great. I don't know how to put it into words. It's like for me, I'm really authentic and truthful. So when I say I don't know how to put it into words, I really don't. And it's like your energy is just really great. I mean, I can't even find another word for it. I like it, and I will tell you like it is, and I like you. So let's see what we can do for you. And I love Anna too. So it was a pleasure, Jason. And I didn't even know you were in LA, but stranger things have happened. So
thank you. Big hugs, huh?
And I'm definitely going to read the book, and I'll let you know what I think. And I'm going to give one away, and maybe 2 or 3. We'll do the Oprah effect, where we can give away freebies. And I wish I could give away cars, but I can't. so I'll give away some freebie books. But definitely, I love it. I'm gonna look at the table of contents. Now that I talked to you,
good. That's good.
So now it's good to go. Now I can do it. I feel like the intuition says you can do it now. All right, Jason. Thank you.
That was really nice. Big hugs. Okay, bye-bye.
Keep in touch. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.